Welcome to This Explainer. Today, we're diving into something I absolutely love. We are going to uncover the hidden stories behind 5 everyday English words. You know, memorizing dictionary definitions can be, well, pretty dry, right? The words just slip right out of your memory. But if we paint a vivid, visual picture of exactly where these words came from, boom, learning them becomes completely unforgettable. So, let's turn a simple language lesson into a fascinating history lesson.
So did you know every single English word has a story? It's totally true. And knowing a word's unique history is like a superpowered mental anchor. It connects a totally random string of modern letters to a really vivid historical picture. That is exactly what helps you remember its modern meaning with crystal clarity. Today we'll look at 5 incredibly useful words, their exact meanings, their historical origins, and exactly how to use them in real life.
All right, let's jump right into part 1. Curiosity begins the journey. Every great adventure starts with that initial spark of discovery.
And we're kicking things off with the word curious. The modern definition simply describes someone who is actively wanting to learn or know more. It's that fundamental, everyday drive to seek out new knowledge. But where did this drive actually get its name?
Well, here's where it gets super fascinating. Hundreds of years ago in ancient Rome, the root of this word was the Latin word cura, which literally translated to care or concern. Over time, that evolved into our modern English word curious. So historically, a curious person wasn't just being nosy. They were specifically someone who cared deeply enough to ask questions. Their curiosity was a direct result of their genuine care and concern for the world.
So let's look at how this plays out today. The curious student asked many questions. You see? This shows exactly how to apply that historical concept of care and concern right into a real-world classroom setting today.
Now, of course, that initial curiosity inevitably leads us to our next word, journey. Today, we simply define a journey as a trip from one place to another. It could be a physical trip across the globe or a metaphorical one, like the language learning journey you're on right now.
And this next origin brilliantly illustrates how language adapts to human life. Back in the day, the old French root journée literally meant a day's travel. Think about it. People didn't have cars or airplanes back then, so they practically measured their trips by how far they could physically travel by foot or on a horse from sunrise to sunset. Over centuries, that daily visual measurement shifted into our modern English word for trips of any duration.
So when we say their journey across the country took 5 days, we can clearly see how the modern meaning has evolved. We're obviously no longer restricted to just one day's travel. The word now perfectly describes trips of any length.
Moving on to part 2, bravery leads to improvement. Because, as we all know, every worthwhile journey requires courage if we truly want to grow.
Which brings us to our third word. We define brave as demonstrating courage and facing the unknown without fear. It means showing guts and not backing down when things get difficult.
Historically, this traces all the way back to the Italian word bravo, which meant bold or courageous. When it entered the English language in the 16th century, it was used very specifically to describe heroes and incredibly courageous, bold individuals charging into battle. And you know what? That heroic legacy is still baked right into the letters we use today.
So, in a real-world scenario of undeniable heroism, we might say, the brave firefighter rescued the children. That carries all the weight of that 16th century Italian root directly into our modern vocabulary.
Now, being brave enough to face challenges naturally allows us to reach our next word, improve. The basic meaning here is simply to become better at something.
The word improve actually comes from the old French word improver. Historically, this meant not just getting better, but actively making something better or using a situation to your advantage. It wasn't just passive growth, it was actively capitalizing on an opportunity. To connect this directly to your own goals, reading every day will improve your English. By actively choosing to read, you're using the situation to your advantage, completely embodying that old French root. If we actually chart these two powerful concepts across history, we see improve becoming common in the 15th century. Just 1 century later, in the 16th century, brave made its grand entrance. And today, both are essential pillars of our daily language, layered with literally hundreds of years of history.
Now we arrive at the final destination of our narrative arc, Part 3, Achieving Your Ultimate Goals.
We define our final word, achieve, as successfully reaching a goal. It's the successful completion of a massively important task or a lifelong dream.
This one has an incredibly satisfying historical origin. The old French root achever literally meant to bring to an end or to finish. It is the ultimate final step, When you achieve something, you are officially bringing all that hard work to a close.
So when we say, she worked hard to achieve her dream, we see exactly what reaching that ultimate finish line looks like in everyday speech. She brought the work to an end and successfully grasped her goal.
All right, let's bring all these concepts together for Part 4, your daily language challenge. Let's do a quick narrative review to permanently lock these in.
When we string today's vocabulary together, they form a cohesive, highly motivational story of personal growth. Check this out. Step 1. Be curious and care enough to ask questions. Step 2. Let that curiosity start a journey. Step 3. Be brave and bold along the way. Step 4. Use those challenges to your advantage to improve. And finally, Step 5. Bring the work to an end and achieve your goal. How cool is that?
Always remember, knowing a word's history makes it infinitely easier to remember its meaning. Understanding where language comes from, whether it's an Italian word for a bold hero or an old French term for a day's travel, is the absolute greatest trick for mastering it. You're not just memorizing definitions, you are absorbing stories.
So, I challenge you to put this into practice right now. Can you write one sentence using any of today's words? Drop it in the comments below. As you go through your day, ask yourself, what hidden histories are hiding in the very next sentence you speak? Thank you for joining me for this explainer, and I invite you back tomorrow for 5 more amazing word stories. Keep learning, and I'll see you then.